Do we have a volunteer to act as secretary this evening for taking roll call votes?
I'd be happy to do that.
All right, Ted, thank you. So let's see here. First order of business is calling to order and taking the roll. Ted, would you please take the roll of the
Yes.
board?
Ted Foss is here. Matt Fruth,
Here.
Colleen Burns,
Here.
Virginia Bloom,
Here.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Here.
Madarima Chakraborty.
Here.
Did I forget anybody? Okay. And Sarah Glavin is absent.
Correct. All right. Under the provisions of the Illinois statutes and the emergency order declaration by the governor, we are empowered to meet virtually. And is there a motion to conduct our meeting for this month virtually?
So moved.
So moved, Ted Foss.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Virginia. Hearing no discussion, Ted, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, Ted Foss, aye. Matt Fruth,
Yes.
Colleen Burns,
Yes.
Virginia Bloom,
Yes.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Yes.
Madarima Chakraborty.
Yes.
And may I ask, is somebody else taking the minutes?
Jody is.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Next item is our approval of our minutes from our March meeting. Is there any discussion, corrections, or questions related to those minutes?
May I ask, does the group here feel that in the minutes of the last meeting that the discussion about Rory O'Neill accurately portray the conversation?
Yes.
And I agree as well, so.
Okay. If there's no other corrections or questions, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Ted, will you please take the vote, please?
Yes, to approve the minutes of the March meeting, Matt Fruth,
Yes.
Colleen Burns,
Yes.
Virginia Bloom,
Yes.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Yes.
Madarima Chakraborty,
Yes.
and I think Ted also approved.
All right. Thank you all. Next on the agenda is public comments. Are there any guests present who would like to make a public comment at this time? All right, there was one submitted via email that I will read. This should not be too bad. Good evening, library board, trustees, and staff. Oh, I'm sorry, this is from Pat Coco. And I'll forward this on to Lori and Jody so they can be included in the minutes. Because of the library's vital role in our community, we want to be sure you are aware of the upcoming return of Celebrating Seniors Week. First, a little background about the Celebrating Seniors Coalition, For those who may not already be aware, since our first Celebrating Senior Week in 2011, our not-for-profit organization has been fueled by a dedicated core team of volunteers. We work to dispel outdated and inaccurate myths about what it is to be a senior in our society. At the same time, we raise awareness of older adults' value and impact while raising money for some older adults in our financial need. This year, from Thursday, May 12th through Thursday, May 19th, there will be over 30 events throughout Oak Park, River Forest, and Forest Park held under the Celebrating Seniors banner. The Marquee Event is the inaugural Celebrating Seniors scavenger hunt, which will bring people of all ages, both on foot and bicycle, past the main library on Saturday, May 14th. That event showcases over 60 of the cultural, civic, architectural, and historical gems in the 1 square mile area of North Oak Park. We invite each of you to join in the fun on that day and to attend as many of the other events as possible. We are pleased that the library once again is among the venues where events will be held. You can find more details at celebratingseniors.net. Our calendar of events can be found by clicking on the events tab. Anyone with questions is invited to email us at info@celebratingseniors.net. Throughout our history, the Celebrating Seniors Coalition has been strengthened by the engagement of local government bodies. That certainly includes the Oak Park Public Library. We are extremely grateful for your ongoing support, just one of the many ways that you provide extraordinary service to our community. Pat Coco, Celebrating Seniors Coalition volunteer and longtime Oak Park resident. All right. That concludes that emailed topic. Is there anybody else who has joined who would like to make a public comment besides the township team? Hearing none, then we'll turn it over to Megan Traficano and the Youth Engagement Program to discuss the Intergovernmental Agreement.
Everybody, thank you so much for having me tonight. I also have with us Jonathan Brown, who's our Youth Engagement Program Manager. So we wanted to kind of present to you the intergovernmental agreement that we have with the 9 taxing bodies in Oak Park River Forest. The 9 taxing bodies are both libraries, both park districts, District 90, District 97, District 200, and then both townships as well. This agreement has been in place since 1996, and we have updated the agreement. As you guys have noticed, we have gone through a program name change. So formerly this program was named the Youth Interventionist Program. However, for this next go around, the agreement will be done in June 30th, 2022. So for this next 2-year cycle, we decided to change the name to the Youth Engagement Program. We just felt that engagement encompassed more of what we've been doing lately in the communities. And Jonathan will step in and kind of explain to you the reasoning behind the name change.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us some time to speak with you. So just kind of some brief history, as Megan stated, in 1996, the Youth Interventionist Program was created, and pretty much up until 2019, it kind of navigated as a gang violence casework program. And then in 2019 and unfortunately in 2020, when the pandemic started, we started noticing in the community that there was a lot of more mental health needs versus violence prevention programming. And so we have spent for the last 3 years pretty much focusing on mental health. So the Youth Interventionist Program staffed master's level social workers, and we were pretty much just doing mental health within the schools, within the communities, as well as in our township, as well as offering virtual sessions for our high schoolers. And then as we approached this new IGA, we kind of sat down at the table and kind of discussed the name change, which came to youth engagement. As Megan said, it encompassed a little bit more. So for this upcoming fiscal year, we're actually adding 2 different umbrellas under this instead of just mental health. The second umbrella will be a mentoring program, which will be a short 12-week program that anyone in the community, we're talking you guys, the library staff, schools, parents, even the kids themselves, they can all refer themselves and say, hey, sometimes I need just a little bit of a boost with decision-making skills, financial literacy, all of these things that we think that will set these kids up for success. And they don't necessarily have mental health needs, but more so just kind of that boost having an adult. This program, this curriculum that we are creating will be able to be a male or female as a mentor, mentoring either male or female. So we try to make it unisex. And then finally, our third umbrella, which is a big, great deal with what you guys play a part in, is our community outreach. Our community outreach encompasses us doing a lot of trainings within the schools, within the communities, staff members at local agencies, learning how to work with youth, things that they should say, things they should look for. And then within the schools with the youth, we're doing bullying trainings, we're doing cyber trainings, race talks, peace circles. We have decided to encompass that, as well as with you guys at the library. I'm getting ready to partner with the teen services to help them with their job readiness program. So we're kind of coming on to help out with different agencies within a community that we may be able to assist with our expertise. So that's where the youth engagement program came from, is more so to kind of address the current needs of the Oak Park youth. We will still service ages 6 to 18. It's a free service for any of the youth that come into our doors. And if we cannot help, we still stick around just to help them find the resources that they do need. So the youth engagement program, to wrap things up, guys, and not keep you guys too long, is just to encompass the mentoring, the mental health, but also making sure that the township has a presence to know that we support the youth of Oak Park and River Forest.
I did have a question real quick, if I could. I know you mentioned that you want to keep the mentorship and menteeship as gender neutral as you possibly can. Have you also taken into account youth who will identify as transgender or non-binary?
Yes, we actually have experienced this as well on our current caseload. So we are navigating it. We're doing research, making sure that we stay up to date. Megan is a licensed clinical social worker who supervises all of us. And so we all have MSWs. We're all working to get our clinical license as well, but we take it every day. But as things like this do come up, we do address it as proper as possible.
And we were able to last year also go through a training that Lori Children's Hospital did for the District 97 staff. So our staff were able to attend that as well.
Great, thank you.
Anyone have any other questions?
I read your report, Megan, and I am really astounded at the wonderful work you're doing, but also how very few clients you have. There must be a lot more people who should know about the good work that you do. Tell me about outreach.
Sure. So this past fiscal year, which ended for us March 31st, we actually saw 80 individual youth clients. So we actually come into contact with a lot more youth than that 80. Those are just the youth that receive the individual services for any of our community outreach. So right now we have a youth engagement specialist at each library 1 day a week and at the Oak Park Park District 1 day a week. We don't count those youth as part of our caseload because we might not come into contact with them every single week like we do with our individual clients. So we, though, partner with all the different agencies that are part of this intergovernmental agreement. At the schools, we mostly work with the school social work staff, but in the libraries, we work directly with the librarians, or at the park districts, we work directly with the staff who are at the centers. So most of our referrals do come from the actual school system because they know the youth so well, where sometimes the youth might be coming into a library or park district and they might not be there every week. They might not know the full name, or they might not know the contact information for the parents or how to get a hold of the kid. But we actually see a lot more than that, just that 80 number.
Okay, thank you. I just would love to know that everybody knows that you're there.
We want everybody to know that we're here too. So feel free to spread the word too, please.
Okay, any other questions from anyone? So what are the, if we can scroll to the specific ask of the, besides being a general partner and supporting partner, what is the specific ask for the library as part of this IGA?
Sure. So the libraries ask, oh, my computer just stopped. Why can I not?
Megan, it looked like it was about $5,600.
No, it should be a little less than that per quarter. I think it's about a little over 4,000 per quarter for the library. So I'm sorry, I don't know what is going on with my computer. It wouldn't be something without a glitch.
Yeah, the quarterly payment here looks like 3,480 for a total of 13,923 for
Yes.
22-23.
Yes, that sounds exactly right.
And then upping to 14,341 for the subsequent cycle.
Yes, for the next year, yes, because this is a 2-year agreement. So we do renew it every 2 years. And so that number will stay the same. So we won't, like, let's say there's a crazy year again, like this year, where the CPI is 7%, we won't change that. What's in this agreement is in this agreement. So once that number is determined, it stays that for the next fiscal year as well.
So I wanted to reiterate, it's not just for those 80 clients that you have reported there. It's much bigger.
Much bigger, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If anyone have any questions or discussion you want to bring up, or are we comfortable with, this is listed as an action item, so we can vote to approve this IGA tonight if everyone is comfortable with this, and we'll be able to get that done.
So our approval, Matt, is for the quarter or for the next year or for the next 2 years?
The 2 years.
Okay.
The approval would be for signing the intergovernmental agreement, which lays out the annualized cost over the next 2 years, which includes the expectation of quarterly payments.
Okay, thank you. May I move to approve?
You may. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Virginia. Any further discussion on the IGA? Okay, hearing none. Ted, will you take the roll call, please?
Theodore Foss is aye. Matt Fruth,
Yes.
Colleen Burns,
Yes.
Madhurima Chakraborty,
Yes.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Yes.
and whom I have forgotten here.
Virginia, yes.
Virginia, sorry. Thank you.
All right. The motion is carried. The IGA is approved. Thank you so much for taking some time with us tonight. Megan and Jonathan, we will get all of this signed and sent over to you.
Thank you guys so much for having us, and you don't have to worry about getting it signed. We'll get everybody we'll organize it all so that nobody has to worry.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you though for offering.
Thank you,
guys.
Megan and Jonathan.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
You too. All right. Then moving on to our board calendar. We have our coming up in May, Memorial Day, and then the first weekend in June is Day in Our Village.
I had a question about that, Matt. I didn't realize it was back, which is exciting. Yay. I know that it usually takes place, and keep me honest, but it usually takes place in the park directly in front of Maine, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Just checking. It's been a while.
Yes. And we have had a booth presence along with the friends. And so Lori or Jody or whomever would like to discuss what we have planned for Day in Our Village.
Thank you. Yeah, Jody has some questions for you.
Hey, everybody. We would love to see you there. If you are ever have been there before, I know Matt and I think Sarah and Ted have definitely stopped by. There's usually a steady flow of people walking either around the booth or, sorry, my dog is trying to bark right now, or into the library that want to hear about what's going on at the library. So very often we have individuals who are able to sign you up for Kids Summer Reading Program, who are able to talk about what's new and exciting at the library. A couple things that we are hoping to highlight is a new creative studio space that's going to be opening this summer, and we'll be getting feedback from the community on. Perhaps we even be able to offer some tours if people are willing to come inside. But it's really a day about trying to take the pulse on who stops by, trying to gain excitement about stopping by and knowing that the library is a place for more than just books. So I was hoping to just extend that open invitation to all of you. If you want to email me individually or just stop by on that day. The book bike is also going to be participating at, and I think it's Mills Park, where the park district sets up like bounce houses and fun for more family-oriented fun in that area. So we'll have a presence at both park locations. I think that about covers it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, in the past, I have found it very, a wonderful event to participate in, is, hearing from folks and just getting, that kind of feedback you don't get from your usual circle, our usual social circles in the community of our friends and family. So
For sure.
I would
We do
encourage
have-
everyone, if you're
Sorry,
comfortable.
Matt. We do have a spinning wheel, is what I call it. And we've given people the opportunity to answer questions or spin for a prize in the past. And what kind of community do you want to live in has been a standard question on that spinning wheel the last couple of years. And we wanted to run it by all of you to ask you if there was another question like that you would be interested in having, a general question that you would be interested in having us gather community feedback on, and then just report back.
Jody, I do have a question. When I have manned the booth, often actually it is often. There are people who are there in the park and they go, oh, well, I'm not a part of Oak Park. I don't live in Oak Park, but oh, I love your library. What is a library? And so people outside the community, is there a way that we can kind of say, okay, you have a public library, you've got your stuff, you can do things, Swan, all of his stuff, because there are so many people who say, oh, I'm not a resident of Oak Park. Why am I talking to you?
No, you bring up a good point. And there's a lot of services that you are able to use in our library, programming space, printing, that do not require a library card, study rooms. So it probably would be great to have a full list of those things available, because as we say and have language, kind of throughout our library, we value all people in our library. So I think that could be a great talking point to kind of launch into, if you live in Chicago, for example, there are a lot of reciprocal services that you can take advantage of if you're in Oak Park, if you work in Oak Park. And so, thanks, Ted. Thanks for bringing that up.
You
I'll
know,
be sure to
I
pull some
just
stuff together.
feel sometimes like I should say, oh, public libraries are the main thing in American democracy, but you know, that doesn't really work.
That's cool. You could go that route too. I mean, we've definitely had messaging around that. You know, the value of being in a, you know, being a citizen, you know, versus a consumer, or even the word patron sometimes pops up. So I like that line of discussion. But I think what Matt said is you do get some different kind of feedback, and I don't know, Ted, if you're kind of feeling that way as well. Sometimes it's really complimentary, which is awesome and wonderful to hear, and sometimes it's super specific.
Thank you.
Hey, Jody, can you repeat that question that you said we've used before?
Oh, sure. It has to do with turning outward and Harwood practice. What kind of community do you want to live in? And that's the most broadest place to begin when you're talking, I guess, in using the Harwood tools related to community aspiration. I want to live in a welcoming community. I want to live in a diverse community. I want to live in a community that, you know, lets me borrow books for free. You know, I'm making things up, but the idea that a lot of our values that exist in our existing strategic plan have come from answers to that question.
I'm wondering if we can ask something along the lines of, like, what do you think of when you think of Oak Park? I know it's kind of similar, but it might lead us to what people are already thinking when they think of Oak Park, and then we can kind of slide into what they're already thinking about.
Absolutely. I'm just popping that down in the chat, so I have it written down and everyone can see it. Thanks.
Jody, can you explain how it works with the wheel?
I apologize, I don't have a picture, but think of it as that kind of looks like a dartboard, but it has a ticker and you spin it and the little ticker goes around. And it was just a way to try to engage people to stop when they're walking by. Hey, do you want to spin the wheel and see if you can win a prize or answer a question? So it's just, it's a tool to use to try to get people to have a conversation with you.
So I've seen those wheels. What I'm trying to understand is how, like, they spin the wheel and then there's a number on it and they win the prize. So there's answers to the questions, or
the questions, I will email a picture to everybody afterwards, but the questions are like printed on the, pardon me, the questions are printed on the wheel itself.
Okay.
So that, you know, there's like a little ticker. You feel like you're at a carnival and you spin the wheel for a prize.
Yeah.
So the ticker will stop on a particular question. So it's really more for the excitement.
Okay. So you have multiple questions. Got it.
Right.
Okay, not one question with multiple answers. Got it. Okay.
Right. So in the past, we've had like 3 to 5 questions, and some of them are silly and some of them are a little more serious. And so we wanted to get your perspectives on what you might want to.
And Suzanne, everybody who's going through Day in the Village, they have a little card and they get their stickers as they vote, as they go into various places. So they get
Booth
a whole bunch of
bingo.
stickers, like bingo, exactly.
Yeah.
So on the wheel, there are some that are questions and some that are numbers that go to a prize.
That's correct.
Maybe it's not important. I'm just trying to understand. Okay.
It's a fun spinny thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I've been to Day in the Village. I just I don't know that I ever did the spin the wheel at the library.
Oh well, yeah. Something to look forward to.
Yes.
Excellent. So everyone, if you're available to spend some time to help staff the booth for the library on that day, and you're comfortable with that, because I know not everyone is super comfortable with random stranger public engagement. So please be mindful of your own comfort levels with this, and let Jody know so that they can give you details and confirm what time they expect you. If there's no other questions about our calendar, we'll move on to staff reports.
All right. We've got the strategic priorities, engagement, learning, stewardship, and anti-racism report, and the core youth statistics. We have some members of LT with us today, so if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
How do you feel the women of color and women of color business owners in Oak Park? That's a lot. How do you feel like that went? I know it says that about 50 people attended. Like, in my head, I'm like, oh, 50, that's not a lot. But then when I really think about it, I'm like, 50 might be a lot of people. Do we feel like that was well received and well attended?
Yeah, I think that was really good attendance, actually. And I think Tatiana was feeling like she would like to have more events like that based on the feedback, because it was so well received. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Do we have other ideas of other similar events to have?
I'll have to check in and find out, but I'll find out for you.
Awesome.
I had a question, Lori, about I don't know the answer to this question. Is the library or any of its other branches a summer feeding site?
No. Is that something that you think we could or should apply for, Colleen?
No, I was just thinking about, we know that food insecurity rates tend to go up, especially for families with young children during the summer when they don't have access to school meals. And I don't know if it's a conversation that the library has had before about the need in the community for something like that. Obviously, it only makes sense if there's a need there, but I didn't know the answer and I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I know the book bike supports Beyond Hunger and goes to events in the summer. And Stephen is on the call too. He might have more that he could say from the community engagement team. Stephen, do you know more about the food insecurity programs that we might be a part of in the summer?
As far as us, we are not supporting any of them, but I do know that the township does support them through the summer school program, at least for the middle schools, not high school, but the middle school district 97. But us library formally, we do not.
Would it be possible for us to put that information in like the children's section, even if we're not the site? Is it possible that we have information on where those families can go in the children's section where they would be spending time?
Sure, that's a great idea.
All right. Let's take care of that. Now we have the rest of our staff reports here, including our core statistics. And were there any board questions about any of our statistics as we see them?
I think I continue to see how the decline in digital use there's not that much of a decline in digital use, even as we see an increase in people coming in to the physical library. And I'm just wondering how that's going, and how
Madre, you can blame us introverts. We don't We don't want to come back out again. We want
No,
to
well, I think that I mean, I'm doing, actually, I haven't been to the library in a few weeks, but like, I want to say that I feel like we're just doing both of it or all of it. I think that that's what, this is something that I think we were talking about when we were having our budget discussions, maybe, was that as people are getting used to the digital resources, which were ramped up during COVID, it doesn't mean that they'll ramp down when we open up. And I guess I'm just wondering how all of that's going.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more and more. It's not, there's not a lowering on the digital side to equate to the physical increases. So we're going to have to think about what that means budget wise, because I think the expectation is that, you know, that we during COVID, you have so many borrows, you know, Hoopla, we had an increase in how much access you could have to what we were supplying. And I think that expectation continues, even though they're more expensive now than it was during the, you know, they were giving us a break during the last couple of years. So we're going to have to consider that when we look at the budget.
Yeah, and so does that, I'm just wondering, as we start or think more about the about like on-site programming, is there a corresponding expectation that those will also be, you know, on Zoom, or I don't know, I'm just curious how that, again, that is another part that I'm curious about.
Yeah, I think Alexandra is also on the call and she might want to chime in here, but we are, you know, doing both now. And in some cases we're doing
also, I mean, while we waited on other,
I'm sorry, I'm hearing other voices. We are being expected to have a virtual option and an in-person option, or a hybrid option of the programs. And so we're trying to work with that, and it is stretching our capacity. And I think we're just going to have to plan, you know, for it, because we've created the need, and it's great for convenience. I think we're attracting new audiences to virtual programs. And I think we don't want to lose them, you know, by not continuing to offer, but it's a resource question. We're going to have to, you know, work that out.
Lori, I know earlier in the year, we talked about working with some other library systems to sort of share the load of some of that digital programming. Do we think any of these things would be able to fit into what you were planning there?
Yes, and that's the are you thinking about the virtual? Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Alex is ready to speak too.
sorry, I'm not going to come on camera because I'm in a sweatshirt and I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I can, but I'm making dinner, so I thought I'd attend while I'm here. But so one, to the question about we're going to continue to do virtual, just like Lori said. Next month is kind of a new cycle of programming, and like for example, our English language conversation hour, just last month we had someone from Mexico come, as well as, you know, many Oak Parkers who have been long time attendees. And so that program is going to continue to meet once a month virtually. The first Saturday of the month it will continue to meet virtually, and then the rest of the Saturdays, it'll start to meet in person. So we're going to kind of try to feel that out. I've also let programmers know, like, we're going to remain flexible about this. Maybe we want book clubs to meet in person during the summer, but during the winter, when the weather doesn't get, you know, so great, and people are more inclined that they want to stay home, and maybe cases go up, we have to see, or just in general, cold and flu season, we'll do some more virtual. We're going to kind of, again, see where this new hybrid world takes us, but we're keeping an open mind, and we are keeping some programs, just by nature of who the presenter is, will be virtual, and some by nature of how localized they are will be in person, and we're just keeping flexible with that. I would say we are keeping, as far as resource sharing, the Illinois Library Presents is going really great. The Jeff Tweedy Nick Offerman program is tomorrow if you want to sign up still. And it's exceeding all expectations around registration, but there's also 2 really great programs. We actually are getting more programs than we expected. We're going to have 2 programs in May with women authors. So that's going to be really great too. But we're also, that's on the Illinois Library Presents side. We're also still working, like we just booked Sound Opinions. I think that's going to be June. It's on the calendar now. I can't remember if it's June 8th. It's early in June. And that's just with Arlington Heights and about 18 other libraries where we all just kind of got together and said, you know, Sound Opinions has a bit of a higher price tag than any of us could afford on our own. But when we split it up, it's much easier, and virtually makes it easier for all of our patrons to attend instead of having to go to one library. So that's what we're, we've done it before with Sound Opinions. It's always worked really well. So we're really excited, but yeah, we're continuing. Virtual allows us to also resource share with other libraries in a pretty great way. So.
Thank you, Alex. That was super helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that. One thing I just would like to say is that as we're thinking about, you know, kind of virtual, that we think about it as something that allows access to people with disabilities who actually have had the demand and the need before the pandemic showed up. So the pandemic forced everybody to all of a sudden realize that we can actually do more. And so I do think it's important that I don't know if we need to do, you know, some sort of study or analysis on this or whatever, but I think it is really essential that hybrid is done as often as possible, even for in-person events. There are going to be people here in Oak Park, you know, who would attend if they had the capacity, you know, if they could attend virtually, that haven't been able to attend in person. So I think for me, it's a really high priority to think about how we move forward with that.
I appreciate that.
I had a quick question on the difference between digital materials use and online resource use. Can you explain exactly what online resource use is? Because I'm not thinking of it correctly.
So online resources would be the databases. So like oh gosh, now I'm going to draw a blank on some of the databases. The Foundation Directory, the LinkedIn Learning, those kinds of things.
You can take a look at the link in the chat that I just put, and that'll take you to all the databases.
Well, I was just looking because the numbers for 2019 and 2021 were fairly similar, and I'm looking at 2022, and you know, so it has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has nothing to do with greater digital offerings. It's not skewing the way our other physical versus digital items are. And I was kind of wondering, like, what's going on with the digital resources that they're getting so much attention.
Well, I have one idea, and that is we've been doing a special promotion in the study carrels, and we have seen an uptick since we started doing that. So we are promoting 10 specific resources, and I recently reported on this in a grant that we received for the carrels because it was so exciting. People are noticing them, and I think you know, using them based on that. So it was pretty cool.
I agree with Lori, and I would add that increased promotion during the pandemic overall, as well as some really robust new tools, including BrainFuse, which provides online virtual tutoring, all the access to more than 7,000 world newspapers and magazines through one database. The kinds of databases that are available are very robust. And so I think that plays into it. Like, plus we've been promoting the heck out of them.
Awesome.
Gotta plug that in there.
I'll say I do love that LinkedIn Learning. I did, as you know, Jody, I did quite a bit of that, and I actually ended up using some of those skills in the new job that I got. So it works well. It's a good thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Jody and Alex, about that. Any other questions or comments around the statistics?
I do want to add, related to space usage, that we are doing a study this week on how the furniture is being used in response to requests Suzanne had at the last board meeting, and looking at how, you know, how many people were sitting at tables in different areas and all of that. So we're doing this every other month, and we're going through all floors of the building and also the branches and tallying use of the furniture so that we can get a sense of how packed we are and in what spaces. And I think this will be really interesting.
Okay. All right. Going on. We will move on to our financial reports. We have here narrative report. Any questions related to this? Okay. Then we have our disbursements resolution. Are there any questions regarding the, let me pull that up here. That's beginning on page 68. Are there any questions?
Yes,
But
Lori, I have a question. Now that Rita is retired, who is doing these reports now?
This is Linda Barnett, our new finance officer, and Jeremy is on the call too. He can answer any specific questions. He's the leadership team person sharing the screen, I think. So he's available.
Okay, thank you. I just needed to know because these were always done by Rita.
all right. Is there a motion to approve this resolution disbursements?
So moved.
Is
I'll
there a second? Okay. It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ted, will you take the vote, please?
Ted Foss, aye. Matt Fruth,
Aye.
Colleen Burns,
Aye for me.
Madarima Chakraborty,
Aye.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Aye.
Virginia Bloom.
Aye.
Did I miss anybody? Nope. Okay. And Sarah Glavin is absent.
Yes. All right. Thank you all. Any other questions about the financial reports or the financial statements? We have also our, let me see, where was that? Our income and expense report. So, and I know it seems a little, for those who are still relatively new, it can be jarring seeing that we're 53% of our way through our property tax revenue at only 25% of the year, but the tax bills are, biannual. We'll see if the assessor's office can get their act together. Maybe we actually will have a second bill this year. Otherwise, we may be getting our property tax bills as a Christmas present. So we'll see. And then
Matt, I just got a telephone call from Fritz Kagi who is running for assessor, who happens to be a son of
Yes.
an old professor of mine.
Well,
but-
let's not, I don't know that talking about political
Okay.
campaigns is appropriate for
No.
our agenda at this time.
Okay, thank you.
So then we have our additions and terminations, employment separation report, as well as the status change report. Are there any comments or questions?
I have two questions that I think they're fairly quick. Was there a specific reason for Linda's title change? Anyone?
Jeremy, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah. Because they want to go home.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Sorry, I was looking for my mute button with the screens here. Yeah, after working with Linda over these past 4 months, 5 months that she's been doing this and transitioning to the new reporting, one of the things that we talked to her about is what actually she's, the actual work that she's doing. And through those discussions, and actually with accountants who actually worked with us through the audit in previous years, we took a look at it, and really what Linda is doing is more accounting work and less just data entry and bookkeeping.
Okay.
And so that was the real change with that. Linda's work that she's been doing is doing a lot of the adjusting entries that we would normally contract with an accountant for at the end of the audit year. So she's doing those adjustments herself because of her extensive experience in accounting. So we're hopefully, once we get everything shored up this year, going into the audit next year should be a breeze. And so that was really the crux of that change.
Okay, was there any change other than her title?
There was a slight pay increase to accommodate that. Other than that, the work that she was doing was really, hasn't really changed as far as like the job description or anything like that. But it was just a move within her pay grade to show the extensive experience that she's bringing to that position.
Okay. My other question was, it looks like we have a couple of people who moved from less than 20 hours to more than 20 hours. Can you refresh me on if there are any specific benefits to being over the 20-hour threshold?
Vacation time and sick time, although we just amended that for 15-hour people. It's all prorated by hours, but you would get more at 20 hours.
Okay.
And one other comment on that, and Lori, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think IMRF is a rolling 1,000-hour count for the year, and that's right over 20 hours. It's actually just under 20 hours a week. So once you hit that 20-hour mark, you start contributing to IMRF.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeremy. Forgot that.
All right. If there's no other questions regarding financial reports, we'll move into additional reports. iGov.
Okay. iGov, most of the meeting was about the upcoming event, and I was just trying to find the date. Colleen, do you have the date of when it is? And we pushed for that to be a hybrid of in-person and remote for the same reasons. So I think that's what's going to be happening. And then we heard that the articles that have been in the Wednesday Journal about sustainability have been getting really good feedback that iGov has been doing. We are going to be having one that's about the bees, as I mentioned, with the library bees on the roof. We're throwing out ideas for new articles for those sustainability articles. So if anybody has any other ideas, we can submit those. In the village, let's see, wait, hold on a second. D97, Dr. Shaw begins June 3rd. We have all these new, EDs and staff in all the different governmental bodies. It's pretty exciting. D200 has a new search for an equity director because the equity director is leaving for a principal position somewhere else. In the village, heard great reports about the new village manager, and their search for an assistant director of diversity has not been moving forward very much. So they're trying to kind of reevaluate and see how they can get more movement in that. Reparations is one area that I thought was really interesting for the library to think about because of the wonderful reparations programs that were done with Christian Harris through the library. And one of the topics that we raised and that was going to be discussed around reparations is Percy Julian and the Percy Julian home. And I saw that the library has been foregrounding Percy Julian, which I think is really wonderful. I was really happy to see that. So just wondering if there's some way to assist in kind of that conversation and even further. I think it's a really important topic for our village. So I don't know if there's ways that we can, kind of link those two topics more firmly. The Park District had their groundbreaking for the rec center in March. And what else? COG, there was a discussion about aging and aging in place. And I think Colleen had some, did you have some input on that? I have Colleen's name next to it, but.
Well, I serve as the acting chair of the Disability Access Commission, and there has been talk about merging the two. So perhaps that's how you put my name down, but I don't know. Yeah, nothing directly relevant to share on that.
And I, for the life of me, do not have the date down.
Because it moved, Suzanne, and I can't remember which one's the right date and which one's the wrong date, but it's in May.
Okay, we will get something out to you with the actual date and the details after the next IGov meeting.
All right.
And Suzanne, about reparations, I have been talking to a friend of mine, Nalani McClendon, about reparations and Evanston and what they're doing. And it's very interesting to kind of cover that. That's a very, I think we need to look at what Evanston is doing.
Yeah, Evanston is definitely taking the lead on this, and we can do that too.
All right. COG did not meet. Wait, no, it did, didn't it, Lori? There were connection and link confusion issues, but it did meet. Sort of an introduction of some of the new folks at the table, so to speak, around and kind of an update of what everyone's working on, and then and a bit of that discussion in that I believe it was the township youth engagement discussion. Am I forgetting anything else? There was, I mean, as usual, it's information sharing and not much a call for decisions to go back to boards.
I would just add the next meeting, they're going to be focused on seniors and transportation. I think we were going to get into some maybe idea sharing and problem solving. Am I remembering that right, Matt?
Yes, I believe, because I believe Jan was pushing for that, and to be fair, she has been pushing for COG to be a bit more action oriented for quite some time. And I think with some of the new players around with some of the new board heads and new executive staff around the table, I think it may move in that direction. So, all right. Then let's see. The ILA Legislation Advocacy. There wasn't much. There was one change. There was one significant discussion piece around legislation around a bill that doesn't really affect us. It's for district libraries in part, but there's another part that that was added on late to that bill that would affect all libraries that are dealing with a board vacancy. The previous state law did not put a time limit on how long a library board is supposed to fill a vacancy. And thanks to the events in the Niles Main Library Board vacancy and the contentiousness of them, I think, approaching 9 months without a full board, that this new state law puts a time limit of 90 days, at which point afterwards the state librarian has 60 days to make that appointment. And if the state librarian doesn't fill it within those 60 days, the space will be, the seat will be vacant until the next election, municipal election for that area. So we will have 90 days. It is effective immediately. And that was kind of the big takeaway from this legislative session. There wasn't much else moving related to libraries.
So
Sorry,
Matt, that has a relevance for us with Sarah Glavin's resignation, correct?
Correct. So we'll have 90 days to fill that vacancy.
Thank you.
Effective,
Tonight.
Hi, Matt. Effective tonight.
Yeah, once we vote to declare a vacancy existing, we will have 90 days to fill it. And then that whoever is appointed in that position will serve until next year. And then there will be two special elections on the ballot next year on top of the 3 regular seat elections that we will have next year.
So Matt, that raises a question for me, because we have 7 members of the board and we have those people who are going to be elected in 2023 and those who will be elected in 2025. So because Sarah has resigned, but she's in the 2025 bit.
Yes.
How does that work then with our structure of the 7 directors?
It doesn't change. There will be 3 seats that will be elected to a 4-year term, and there will be 2 seats that will be elected to a 2-year term.
Okay.
To fulfill those, the seat that Suzanne currently is in, that was elected last year, and then Sarah's seat will both be filled for the remaining 2 years by special election.
Okay, so both Suzanne and Sarah are serving because they've been appointed.
No.
Sarah's not serving.
Sarah is resigning the board.
Okay.
And whoever we appoint to fill her seat will be the person, that's the seat that will be up. So it is possible that that after the next election, there will be 5 new members of the board.
Okay.
Depending on who runs for re-election and whatnot. So
the election will be, for my seat, will be just for 2 years with
yes.
running through an election, and that, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. That answers a lot of questions for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Suzanne, you're surprised too, right?
On just that one piece, yeah.
Yeah. And we can, and you know, of course, you know, we can talk about that, you know, questions about the election process and the rest of that, it can be done offline outside of, because I don't know if that's appropriate for our board meetings to discuss whether or not folks are running and how to run and that stuff. So we can talk about that at a later date. Happy to discuss that with anyone.
But it is maybe appropriate to talk about what we're going to do, like if the process will be the same, right?
Yep, and we have that in a few steps in our agenda.
Okay.
And now we will have our Friends of the Library report.
There wasn't a recent meeting, but I did meet with the board, the new board president, to talk about the book fair. And we are going to have one in August in the veterans room and any other spaces in the library that we can get on those days, and have a small fair that is all genres. We're not going to limit the genres. We're gonna collect everything. We're going to start collections in June. We'll do 2 months of book donation collection, and then sell what we collect in August, that first weekend in August. And Russ Glidden, who's the president, was agreeable to thinking about this as a way to move forward, depending on how it goes. They might have 3 to 4 fairs a year, small scale, rather than trying to have the big venue fair again. So that was kind of where we left it. They're still exploring, but he was open to this as a strategy. So I thought,
Okay. Good to know. And thank you, Lori. We'll look forward to that and any other updates we have as we get closer. We've already had the employment report. So new business, rescinding a policy.
Matt, may I also say that I'm a representative now for the library with Planet Green with Gary Kunin. And it's actually a wonderful organization that's working with a lot of communities just around Oak Park. And I would love to be able to share all the stuff that we are doing here in Oak Park and around, particularly about solar energy. And I would like to be able to have Planet Green be able to be an item on the agenda for future meetings.
Sure, we can have them on. We can have them on in May or June, depending on where else we are with you know, the executive director search and our trustee appointment process.
Thank you.
You bet.
Matt, we will need to replace Sarah on the Friends board if you want a trustee.
Okay. I will email the board to get that to see who is interested in that after the meeting. So we have our policy, rescinding a policy.
Yes, we'd like to rescind this general rules and regulations policy. Stephen Jackson is on the call and he brought this to our attention. This policy is very out of date, and what we're recommending is that we incorporate the dress code language that we want now. We don't want to use this dress code language, but into our working guide that we give to new employees. And then we're working on updating the technology policy that involves phones, devices, and other things for library use. And we want to incorporate those statements into a new document, and they would be updated. So we feel that this policy as it exists is not reflecting what we would like to say. Stephen, would you like to add here?
Sure. If you look at the language as it stands now, it's just like Lori expressed, we just don't think it's reflective of what we're about. We want to be more open and receiving and equitable in how we treat staff and how they appear at work, as well as the image, the favorable image statement is ambiguous at best. And we want to be more clear and not as discriminatory towards our staff, and allow them to have some type of freedom and discretion to really fall on managers and supervisors on how people show up for work.
Do we have tentative language for a dress code already?
We do. We've me, Lori, and Billy have been going back and forth. We've been talking to other libraries and doing a little research to find out what is more equitable and reasonable language.
And so
Yeah.
far, all three of you feel comfortable with what's being come up with?
We have a very simple statement, which I think is the direction I'd like to go in, that says we'd like staff to dress appropriately for the positions that they hold, and that to check with managers or supervisors for guidance if there's any questions. That's kind of how we wanted to word it, but we're still working out and thinking about if we have to add more than that.
Okay. I worry about it putting too much pressure on managers and supervisors to push back if there's something that they see is outside of what would be considered appropriate for the position, but we don't have guidelines to back them up for that. And then on the inverse, I know right now our staff is full of absolutely wonderful people, but in light of trying to codify things so that they're equitable 20 years down the road when all of us have gone on to do other things, if we have a manager that, does not shy away from discriminating against some of the things that we know may or have in the past been considered unprofessional, that the language is not specific enough to bar a less reputable manager from telling somebody that they can't do something as well. So I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't resend this, especially if we're still working on the language to do the dress code. But I'm curious to see what we come up with and make sure that we account for anyone who may work for the library in future.
Thank you, Virginia.
One more thing, I wanted to try to slip in. We have an upcoming training, Peace Circle training on 16th through the 18th, 9 to 5. We would love for a board member to participate. So if any of you have interest, please feel free to reach out to me. It'll be a 3-day, 8-hour day Peace Circle training here at the main branch. So if any of you have interest, please feel free to reach out to me.
When is that, Stephen? I'm sorry.
May the 16th through the 18th.
Thank you.
If you could, Stephen, if you could send that to the board email address so that we could all get the specifics of that information, that I would appreciate that.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks, Stephen.
So are we comfortable with rescinding this particular language this evening and then being brought other language once it's been finalized by staff?
Where does that leave things if one's rescinded and the other's not there? Because I think before, when we did the policy, we rescinded a bunch of policies, which was awesome, made me very happy. We had new one, like something new that replaced it. So I just don't know what happens when there's a gap.
Right now, we're using the language Jody put in the chat. That's in our workers guide. It's it's not formalized as policy, but it's in there as guidance. And as far as the language here around devices, Elizabeth is on the call. She may want to speak to this, but I think I think the technology policy will be bringing in May or June, depending if we can get it all done. It's a very involved policy, so it might take us a little longer to update, but that's our plan, to submit that to you soon. But we don't have language for that yet.
Yeah. I can add to this section about phone, because this policy really has kind of weird combination of dress, how you dress to work, and use a library phone. But we have also another outdated policy from 2002 or 3, which is computer use for staff. So we need to really work on updating that one. And when you update it and expand this computer use to technology and equipment, then we would incorporate phone use in this policy. And my estimate is to bring this probably in June, because we may not be ready, since it will be quite complex revision.
Okay.
Does this help with technology section with phones and computers devices?
All right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Is there concern about that gap, or do we want to wait until we have that other language finished before rescinding this, or are we comfortable pulling this now and having staff bring back since there does seem to be some language in practice in documentation in the library?
Oh, I see Jody's now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't, it's an interesting question, because I don't like there to be a gap in the policy in general, but this one is just so different. We have, the extent is so different from what we want it to be, that it seems, I think I would like to ask about what the practice is right now, because if my understanding is, in the absence of maybe a clear policy, we would, like, defer to traditional practice. So, like, I don't know, is there a problem of people dressing inappropriately? Okay. And in your recollection, when this last happened, I don't, like, what is the general practice? Any staff, I guess, I would love to hear from.
This is not something that comes up very often. And in my experience, I've had a couple of conversations over the years regarding it. I'm not worried that there is going to be anything that we would need to enforce in the time that we would have this gap in policy. This is not an issue for our staff. What feels to me to be an issue more is to have a policy that doesn't reflect how we operate. We already operate differently than this policy. So I just want to be in sync with how our culture is. And I think Stephen can also affirm this for me. We do not currently have dress code issues, so I'm not worried about it, I guess.
Lori,
we don't, and we have community engagement team, my team in particular. In the summer months, they're out in the streets, and it'll be pretty hot this summer, so we want them to be comfortable when they do come to work. We don't anticipate that they will be wearing the same type of clothing if they were doing in person in the building programming. They were wearing shorts or maybe tank tops at a desk or in the building, but we just want them to be comfortable while they're out and when they're doing the work that they're doing, as well as facilities when they're doing things in the summer as well. We want them to be comfortable, just staff in general. But those are two particular departments that I know may need to be some flexibility on the dress code.
I mean, I 100% support getting rid of something that may seem to, be an older and discriminatory description. So definitely that. I just was questioning, if there was any sort of HR or legal possible issue with not having something. But it sounds like it's not, this isn't this isn't a concern. So
No, and Billy and Stephen and I have been discussing this. He is in favor of a very minimal dress code statement. That is, we have gathered policies from other libraries. A lot of libraries are very detailed in what they don't allow and what they do allow, and that is not a direction that we want to go in. And so I don't think our final language will be much different than what we currently have, but I want to be mindful of what you shared in relation to the management piece and how managers can be different, and how we need to have, through our procedures or through our other guidance, documentation that gives managers something to refer back to, and consistency where it makes sense. You know, as Stephen pointed out, people have different roles and different expectations. Some are very physical in their work and in their outside. They're doing programs with toddlers. They're doing a lot of, you know, there's different dress for that. And so we want to be able to give that flexibility to managers, but we don't want a situation where we have inappropriate restrictions or, you know, comments coming from managers. Of course, we want to make sure that we have a very equitable, open dress policy that feels fair and yeah. So I think we're all in sync on this. We'll do our best to get you something soon that you can feel comfortable with.
I have one last question. I think this is probably for Lori and Elizabeth. So the second part of this has to do with broadly technology as defined in 2002 and 2014. I'm guessing what you're coming up with for the new technology piece, we don't have anything that covers what you're covering right now. So getting rid of this isn't going to, we're not going to have a gap in any sort of coverage because we're already just not covering everything really. Okay.
We're both nodding. Yeah.
Okay, so trying to figure out where we're at with this. Were those who had concerns about a gap satisfied, or should we postpone this a little bit more on the rescinding the language in front of us?
Not sure what's going on. I'm fine. I just wanted to ask the question, you know, because of just the whole legal and HR, just wanted to cross the T's and dot the I's and all that. But if staff is good with it, I'm good with it.
Matt, can I go ahead and move to rescind this policy? Oh no, maybe he's going to tell me no.
No,
that's fine.
Virginia,
That's fine.
we may rescind it.
So we're on board with that then. So is there a motion to rescind the policy as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ted, will you take the roll call, please?
Yes. Ted Foss, rescind the policy.
It's a yes or no.
A yes. Matt
And I
Fruth,
vote yes.
Colleen Burns,
Yes.
Matarima,
Yes.
Suzanne Fairfax,
Yes.
Virginia Bloom,
Yes.
and Sarah is absent.
Right. That is rescinded. All right. Moving on to 9B, trustee resignation and replacement process. As I forwarded on to you last week, Sarah Glavin has resigned from the board. It is not the time, but we have to officially declare a vacancy on the board by a vote. and then we can begin a process. I will send on to everyone tonight, the rest of the board. I took the, good night, Stephen. The questionnaire from District 97 that they had used last fall, and modified some of the questions to be more applicable to the library's needs. Having children in the district doesn't really apply to us. So I'll send that out for feedback, and hopefully we can get that posted up on our website this week, and have perhaps a 2-week window where folks from the community can apply for appointment, and then we can discuss what the next steps are if we want to have an interim special meeting where we review and then bring a handful of folks to the meeting in May for an interview, so that it is not as unwieldy as our first attempt at this was a year ago. Despite its wonderful results, we do, but I think perhaps we can learn from that effort to move forward. So is there a motion to declare a vacancy?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Suzanne. Just beat you out there. Ted, will you take the roll vote, please?
May I call a question, though? So this vacancy is until the election in 2023, or
Correct.
Sarah's?
It is until the next election.
2025. So
it is until the next election, which is in 2023.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will call to roll. Theodore Foss says yes. Matt Fruth?
Yes.
Colleen Burns?
Yes.
Madarima Chakraborty?
Yes.
Suzanne Fairfax?
Yes.
Virginia Bloom?
Yes.
And our vacant person, Sarah Glavin, is absent.
Yes. So now that we have a vacancy, I will send that form out. Does a 2-week window sound reasonable for everyone? Well, I'm assuming we'll be emailing it out and pushing it out on social media, the notice and the confirmation. So if we can get something by a set of questions that we ask all applicants to submit by Thursday or Friday, I think we can go live this week, and then give folks 2 weeks to respond. Matarima?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Matt, but I was just wondering, like, if people in the community reach out to us, is there like an official statement about the vacancy other than Sarah Glavin resigned?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
We have the reason she gave us, so that's what we use to base it off of. But it's a good question. It's a fair question. So, does that process sound good to everyone? Review the questions and get that up online. Then hopefully within 2 weeks, have like an interim meeting, a special meeting to review and determine a handful of folks to invite to the May meeting, where we can then do kind of an interview of questions.
So we're looking at a special meeting in about what time?
Probably 2 to 3 weeks. And we can email about availability.
Okay.
Of what that is. That doesn't have to be decided tonight.
Okay, thank you.
But I'd like to get the initial ball rolling on this process, so that we can, the sooner we start accepting applicants, the sooner we can get a decision made.
May I ask Suzanne, who has been appointed to the board, do you think this is a good process?
Well, I was just going to ask why you were doing the interim. Was it just too many people that that you had to deal with for the two-step process.
Yeah, at least that's my take on it. I feel like, it was very intimidating going into that meeting with with a thought of 20 plus people all giving 5-minute presentations.
Right. Yeah.
And if we can, and it seems to be a best practice from other bodies around that they have done that kind of iterative step of initial review before we bring somebody before for consideration.
And I think that makes some sense if you have that that many people. I was just curious, where the change came in. And then just given that we've got a search process for an ED, just another interim meeting was like, do we need another interim meeting? But I understand that must have been a little bit much with that many people. And then people also know going in, if they're going to spend the time, kind of talking to the board, that it is a narrowing of the process, that you're not spending the time doing the initial statement and the second statement. So I think it sounds good.
So can I'm sorry, I was just gonna ask if we can pause, and then I was flashing back to how I believe I was the one that insisted last time around that we like keep it as open as possible and not have any like filters as much as possible. So you would have thought I had learned my lesson. But again, I'm going to just say that my memory is that 26, I think, or so applicants that we had was a lot, and that we all made fun of ourselves. And I think we were all secretly making fun of me. And, but in the meeting itself, a lot of people didn't show up. Does anybody else remember that? I remember thinking, I remember thinking before the meeting started that easily 10:30, 11 o'clock, we're going to be here because, there's going to be so many people, and then we'll have a closed session. We have to deliberate. And I don't think it took, the actual process didn't actually take as long. I'm not even talking about the closed session deliberations. I'm just talking about like listening to everybody. So I
don't think that we had a lot of, I think my recollection is the same, but I think the people who did show up, quite a few of them just repeated the written statement they gave us. And so, and I think, but we only had one question that we had people respond to, is what it was basically, give us a personal statement. It was not directed. And so they were all over the place. So I think perhaps something a little bit more, because, and then we had a second round of questions that we encouraged people to submit about what are your thoughts on this, and this, and this. And I think perhaps if we jump right to that in that initial thing, we can, I think as much as there were candidates for the executive director search firm where we saw their proposals and there was a few of them, we all kind of internally crossed off in our heads as options to consider. I think we may do that here. I'm open to having everybody who applies come and speak in the main meeting. I'm not against it. My suggestion was as terms of perhaps trying to be, to be more efficient without losing, accessibility to candidates at the same time. By getting more questions, we have a better sense of some of that, and we can read through those things from people.
I definitely like the idea of having more questions go directly to the candidates, because it was a little bit difficult to compare apples to apples, for lack of a better phrase, between, what some people were looking at it like a job interview, giving us qualifications. Other people were giving us the flavor of, how they feel we fit into the community. And that was a little bit difficult as far as like a general comparison of what we're looking for in a trustee. I also, Madrima, a little bit to your point, I kind of want to recall back to the executive director search where we plan for a lot of people to show up to that second round of RFPs and then not so much. So, you know, if we get, you know, a reasonable number of people who apply, yeah, why not invite them all? If we end up with 50 people, I don't see how that's reasonable. So I'm happy to have an interim meeting if for no other reason than to look at what we have in front of us and make a decision based off of what we have in front of us, rather than us trying to guess what the next best step is based off of, we don't know what the heck we're going to be getting.
I'm sorry, can I, is it okay if I go again? I know I'm talking a lot. I want to make sure that other people get to speak too. And I think actually, Virginia, that's really good. I mean, I was gonna lie and say I don't have a problem with another meeting, but you know, sure, like we don't all want just lots and lots of meetings, but this is a good reason to have a meeting. And I honestly don't have a problem with that. I want to register, I think the spirit of what I'd said the last time around too, all right, so I'd like to re-register it, which is that I feel that to just declare my candidacy for library board trustee, I didn't have to do anything except say that I wanted to run, you know, and I understand that this is different. I understand this is not an election. I understand that this is a second appointment process. So I wanted to say that because I really like our group. I think we work really well together. I think we have really great conversations, but just in the spirit of not trying to choose people who are all already ideologically exactly the way that we are, right? That's what I just want to name that. Like, of course it makes our job easier if we all agree, that's fantastic. But in this spirit of maybe like another model, if we could just think, that might mean that the specific question that we ask is a different kind of question. There might be a different way to do it other than just to say, if you're interested, like write a statement. I don't know, but I just wanted to like name that. I wanted to, you know, say once again that I understand that just to declare my interest in running, all I had to do was, well, I mean, obviously,
Yeah, to collect signatures and file them, and there was that anticipation of more process. And I think that that threshold for engagement, where at this point they don't have to do the collecting of signatures, but there was a possibility that you would be asked those questions. And I think hopefully if you were going to run that way, you were in a space that you were prepared and would have answers to such questions.
Yeah, but not to the board that already existed, you know, like to somebody. Right, but I actually think that there's a difference. Like there's a difference between.
Well, the questions I pulled from them were very general. Were very much like, what is your vision of being a trustee? What do you think are the biggest challenges facing the library in the next 5 years? Kind of, you know, and we'll take a look at it and we can say, well, that one doesn't work and we can pull it. But I was trying to get to something that it's a bit more guided than just write a statement.
And Madrima, the other safeguard for this is, you know, as we've pointed out a couple of times, we don't get to appoint this person for a full term. This person is only appointed until, you know, basically from May, well, not even, because we're not going to be done by then, but until next May. So, you know, I understand what you're saying, that, you know, there should be transparency and our constituents should have the final say in, you know, who is on, you know, their board. This is,
well, it's more like I wanted to be accessible to as many people who would want to be in this position, regardless of who they think is already on the board. And I do get that, of course, this is not an election and that this is an appointment and there's a reason that we can't just we can't have like multiple elections all the time. I really do understand all of that, and I'm not even sure that I think that we should not learn our lessons from last time. And I honestly, Matt, do not mean to make it sound like I don't appreciate the work that you've already put in and trying to like think of what questions and to try and lead us through this process and guide us. I felt like some of the concerns that I had last time around remain, you know, so I wanted to air them again.
Well, we don't have to finalize these next steps tonight.
Okay.
But I think the key part of tonight was declaring the vacancy, and then moving and then initiating that part as hopefully as quickly as possible. If we can get something, I asked Lori and Jody to dust off the web page from a year ago, and if that's the way we want to go, we'll just update the dates and use that again, and maybe add the questions we asked the candidates to think about as part of that second round that we came up with a year ago. Or we can use the questions, modeled off D97 or a mix of both. But I'd like to, hopefully, given everything else we have going on, and it might be ambitious, but be in a place where we can be in a place where at next month's board meeting, vote to appoint if possible.
Okay. Can I ask something about process?
Sure.
Which is that we should not be deliberating via email, right? Like, isn't that? I'm a little
We should
iffy
not
because
be
I feel
making we should not be making policy, budgetary decisions via email and having discussions. Like editing a document
okay.
is for that kind of questionnaire, as long as it is you are sending me the feedback for a document I am holding, and it is not a discussion between all trustees. So if I blind copy everyone and each of you send stuff back to me individually to edit on that document, we're fine.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right.
I don't recall what exactly the second round of questions were last time, but those did seem more pointed than, and more valuable, and than just the general statement. So I think starting with that, something a little more directed and that is an apples to apples, I think has a value. And having it not be two steps. One thing is that last time it was immediately following relatively immediately following an election. So there was a lot of attention.
Sure. And there was a lot of confusion about the vacancy and everything like that.
But there was a lot of attention in the community around election, and people had been engaged. So the awareness was higher then than I think it might be this time. So I don't know if there will be as many people this time. And I think there is a value to knowing what the process is and in advance for someone who's interested. It's kind of like, oh, there's more to do. How am I going to carve time out for that? But I was committed and took the time to do my best with it. But and just whatever will keep us so that we can keep moving forward, I think is fine.
Right. So I will send that email out tonight with that list of questions that we can start reviewing and hopefully get moving on that later this week. Thank you everyone for your feedback. That is appreciated. Now the executive director search updates. The job posting went live last week. On ILA, ALA, the Black Caucus of ALA, I checked in with Rashida, and over 20 various digital platforms that do library as well as other job postings. So far, 13 applicants have submitted 5 of them, she, based off the initial review, will be going into the next initial interview phase at the end of the closing, but the posting is going to be up through, I believe, May 2nd. Is it the 6th? It's in that first week of May. So it's May 6th, yeah, that Friday. And she is anticipating many more applicants to come, as the pace of applicants to speed up as it goes in, as we get closer to the 6th. So to not assume that we will have, 13 per week, she expects it to pick up pace as more people prepare their documents to submit. So any questions?
Did we get an email that it was live? Did I miss that?
I don't recall specifically.
Because I noted, I saw it on LinkedIn and then shared it out on LinkedIn, and then
Okay.
searching for, did some Google searches to find the others.
Okay.
So I think, and it's been, I don't know how long, but I think, us amplifying the post to, to our networks can be helpful.
Sure. I'll make sure it gets, everyone gets shared. So
I don't know if there's link, I searched and found.
it's on our website, and it's been posted on the Illinois Library Association, the American Library Association. It's in the library networks of job posting and Rails in the various groups.
Yeah.
Do we know where?
And found them, but maybe just sending links to where they are, that, if that, wherever it might be to, to share out. And then also on our website, it's not like, it's only under like work for the library, I think, right? It's not kind of in a more prominent position, not a prominent place that people visiting the library website might find it. I don't know if that matters.
I don't think it does. Personally, I don't think it does, because I think the people who are going to be applying are going to be finding it from the various networks that are, and those who are already aware and looking for us to post that they were waiting. So I think we're in that. So
Do we know where we're getting the most hits? I know we've posted it a lot of different places.
I haven't asked for that kind of specific information, but I can ask.
I'm just being nosy. I know we were trying to fish in new waters, so I'm just trying to see if that's been successful.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Feel free to reach out to me or Lori or Billy if you have any other questions about the search as we go on. I'll try and make sure we get some regular metrics maybe next Monday to see what where our counts are from Rashida and Billy. So Lori?
Yeah, related to this, Suzanne raised the question of the old job description policy. We have a dated job description on the website, and I wondered if you wanted me to add this as a discussion and action topic in May to update?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep, we should do that. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Having completed all of our agenda items, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, may I ask a question? I had thought that we would have our attorney here because we are supposed to be submitting our financial disclosures by I think the 4th of May. And I found those really intrusive. Can you tell me
the statement of economic interest?
Yes.
It's not much different than what they've asked in the past, Ted, but
I'm really confused, Matt, because I mean, am I supposed to tell what stocks and bonds I own or what?
Yes. If they earn over a certain amount, that's in the form, yes. But you can, I mean, you can ask contact the attorney and get some clarification on that.
Well, I'm still confused.
Okay. Well, I believe you have the contact information from the Ansel Glenk, who can perhaps provide some additional clarification on that.
Well, actually, that is not.
It's a matter of state law. It's a matter of state law that they changed it. This was not a fluke. This was
So then I should probably resign if I don't want to give personal information.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you'll get fined if you don't submit it.
Well, I thought that we were going to have an attorney at today's meeting. Lori, am I?
Britt Isley was going to come, but he said he wanted to meet with you all in person at your next in-person meeting, and he wanted to talk with you all when you have the new trustee, because he thought it was important to talk to the newest trustees. That's why he canceled on this meeting. But I think it is okay. I can reach out to him, Ted, if you have specifics beyond the fact sheet he shared. If you need some other support, we can answer the questions.
Okay, thank you, because we're supposed to report by, I think, the 4th of May, and this kind of confuses me. And
Okay.
it's been very intrusive, so.
Okay. All right. We are adjourned. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.